Could you start by introducing yourself and what your role at Samaritans is?
So my name is Darren T. I'm the director at Swindon District Samaritans. I'm also a listening volunteer. So I've been a listening volunteer for 6 years and I've been director for nearly 2 years.
And I'm Maggie. I'm also a listening volunteer and I help organise all the publicity for Swindon District Samaritans. I'm in my second stint of volunteering for Samaritans. I did it for about 8 or 9 years, from about 2000, and I'm about 3 years back into it after a break of about 10 years.
Some of our readers might not have heard of Samaritans before, so can you briefly explain what Samaritans do?
For me, we provide a safe space for anybody to come and speak to another human being and get that human interaction. It's a completely confidential 24-hour service that provides some support for those who are in distress or despair and need somewhere to turn to. So that's what I'd say it was. Would you add anything on?
I think it's about basically anything that's causing you concern, that's troubling you, that's weighing on your mind, that is important to just feel that you can talk to somebody. And it doesn't matter who in Samaritans, because we're all trained to the same level, but that you can talk to somebody and it doesn't matter what you say, because Samaritans will try and walk alongside you and understand what it is that you're going through at that point in your life.
What kind of things could our readers call you about?
Could be absolutely anything, really could. From stresses at home, stresses at school, anything like that. We will take calls about. And the thing is, we're not trained in those specific areas, but we can start to try and understand what's going on in your life, to start to understand, to start to give you some perspective to what is actually going on. Maybe sometimes thoughts come up in all random orders, but by talking it through with somebody, you have to put it in some sort of logical sequence, and that helps to then start to understand it a little bit better. So that it can be about absolutely anything, but it's about helping put it into some sort of perspective and way of understanding it.
Yeah. And I think it is about anything, and often there are subjects in our world today that are still viewed as taboo. So things like, I feel the need to self-harm, or I'm feeling like I don't want to live, and actually being able to have that courage to pick up the phone or to email or text and actually say, look, this is how I'm feeling, and I may not be able to put it into words straight away. So sometimes it takes a while to be able to start to articulate how you're feeling, but the important thing is we don't judge. Samaritans will never judge. What we will do is, as Darren said, is try and understand what it is that you're going through. And sometimes we'll ask questions that actually you wouldn't do in polite society, that actually is trying to get that clarity and to help that thought process of how you're feeling.
Sometimes it might not even be that there is something on your mind, sometimes it's just, I don't feel good today. And if that happens, then you don't know who to turn to, because you don't know what to say. But through speaking with a Samaritan, it starts to unlock perhaps what is going on and what might be there. And sometimes you can liken it to a bucket. You keep chucking different stresses into the bucket, and eventually that bucket is going to fill up and start to overflow. So you need a tap at the bottom of that bucket to start to let those stresses out. For some people it might be exercise, for some people it might be gaming or something like that. But for some it's just about talking and letting it out, letting it dissipate, and allowing yourself that space in that bucket to then start to fill it up again.
Yeah.
And Maggie, you mentioned there that our readers can call, email and text. Would you be able to remind us of the numbers and the email address?
Oh my goodness. So, well, you can phone for free, 116 123, any mobile, even if you don't have credit, it won't appear on your bill, so that's really important. So it is something that you can do in complete confidence, anonymous. And I
Anonymous.
That's it, that's the one. Email is
joe@samaritans.org.
and I can't remember
The text number, I'm not sure, but it's available online.
Yeah, I can let you have it later if you like. It's numbers and I don't do numbers.
How did you get involved with Samaritans?
I think the first time, what drew me to it is I'd got experience when I was growing up of a close family member who had what was really weirdly called a nervous breakdown. I didn't understand what it was. And it was taboo. Nobody talked about it. It was just, she's in hospital, that's it. And I knew that my dad had to carry this burden. And it just felt, even though I was growing up, to be something that I needed to be able to help, but I didn't know how to. And it was just something that he soldiered on with and got on with. And I think that through where I worked, which was very, very encouraging of volunteering, I found Samaritans, and actually it sort of gelled with my past experience of growing up not understanding and not being able to talk about things, to actually being able to go, well, okay, this is an organisation that feels like it can be really supportive, the training is excellent, and it was just something that really gelled with something that I felt I could do and give back, because I'd understood what it was like to in effect, suffer in silence.
For me, it was throughout college and university, I kind of been there for people, and people would turn to me and would talk to me and open up. And when I got back from university, I was unemployed for a few months and trying to work out what I wanted to do. I had absolutely no idea. I thought, I want to do something meaningful. So for me, Samaritans was a perfect match. I'd already been there for people when they needed somebody to turn to. So then with the Samaritans, it was about being there for people on a broader scale, and it was a perfect fit, as I say, and went through all the training, managed to get a job in that time as well. But since then, I haven't looked back. It's been a great experience and been so rewarding being there for people as well.
Yeah, it is actually, I feel, quite a privilege that people feel able to pick up the phone and to share things that perhaps they wouldn't talk about in day-to-day life, or share with perhaps somebody that they're closest to. So it's a privilege that they feel able to pick up that phone and just talk about things that are really they're struggling with, and to try and walk alongside them and understand. I think the important thing is Samaritans don't give advice. So we're not there to solve your problems or tell you what to do. It is about really, really listening to somebody, asking perhaps questions that you wouldn't normally ask, and trying to understand and help create a platform for them to be able to move on.
Because the person who calls us, they're the ones who know themselves the best. So they will know what they can and can't do and can and can't achieve. So if we were to tell somebody what to do, it may be way beyond what they are capable of. So it's about listening to that person and then replaying those words back and saying, well, this is how you sound like you're feeling, this is what you sound like you want to do at the moment. And sometimes just by playing that back, it's like, actually, yeah, I can do that. So that's kind of why we're there. But when somebody calls us, we'll answer the phone, Samaritans, can I help? And that's it. We'll leave it there and allow that space for whoever's on the end of the phone to come forward and to kind of give them the space to explore what's going on.
And how could other people get involved with Samaritans?
So we have information events every month. They'd be worth coming along to find out more about what we do on the phones when we're picking up the phones. We have about 9 weeks training.
Yes, it is about
9 weeks training to go through, but it's so in depth. It's so well covered. So the training is absolutely brilliant. So a lot of people think, I wouldn't be able to do that at all. Yeah. But actually, as soon as you start to go through the training, you start to understand a bit more as to how you can cope with those sorts of things.
And there's lots of practical things about answering the phone, and so fellow volunteers will actually play the role of callers, and so you can sort of role play and really start to get into understanding how to listen, and that's that's such an important part of what we do.
And finally, what advice do you have for our readers on how they can cope with their life challenges and mental health struggles?
I think the important thing is, in a way, to give yourself a break. Life today is fast-paced, it's perfect. There are these illusions of perfection. It is okay to not be okay, and I think it is definitely important not to try and bottle it up and to try and cope yourself, to be strong, to man up, or whatever the term is, but to talk about things, to share things, because there are all sorts of organisations. Samaritans are there to listen and to support. Please don't do it alone.
Yeah, I think that message of not doing it alone is a big one. I think we can all do more to help friends, family, neighbours, whoever that might be, just by asking, how are you? Samaritans have a campaign called Small Talk Saves Lives. This is linked really to the railways, and for railway workers to speak to people on the station, to say, how are you feeling? And to start that conversation. But that applies anywhere. If you see somebody who you think's in distress, then you can speak to them and just ask, how are you? And it can really break down the barrier and really open up a dialogue when that person might not be feeling great. So I think the Men's Mental Health Swindon awareness campaign, and the tagline there is, how are you really? And that's about asking twice, how are you? And the standard response is, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But it's, how are you really? And I think there's something to be said about asking twice, into digging into what's actually going on for that person.